Hey everybody, welcome into That Betting Show, January 10th, 2019. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour. Give me a follow at RightSideVP. This is That Betting Show, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs, designed to get you ready and mobile, Teddy, in 20 minutes or less. Let's get right to it here on the topics. Hot topics, as always, are going to start off today. And we're gamblers out there, so I feel the pain of some of these out here, Teddy. Incredible finish in the Marquette-Creighton game last night. If you watch the game and the way it unfolded, like many of us did, depending on where you were shopping, different sports outlets and books, this game looked like it was a wrapped-up winner, Teddy, for those Creighton boys at home, but not so fast, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Blue Jays hit 2 free throws with 8 seconds left to go up 5. You don't lose those games. Okay, you usually cover those games, even if you're laying 3.5. So what happens? Marquette, they miss one shot. They miss another shot. They get the layup. There's 1 second left. All Creighton has to do is inbound the ball. But they turn it over, and lo and behold, Sam Hauser with 0.8 seconds on the clock hits a 3. Next thing you know, it's overtime. Marquette gets the straight-up victory in the extra session. Creighton backers, that's a tough one, no question. My condolences if you laid it with the Blue Jays last night. Beats, yeah, they get tougher than that, but not a whole lot tougher. You're supposed to cash that ticket.
No, and it's going to happen quite a bit. We see it a lot in college basketball here because you don't get the timeout, Teddy, to advance it to midcourt there. So you see a lot of shenanigans late. But the one thing I was even more impressed by, 0.8 seconds, being able to catch the ball at three-point range in the air, land, and then go back up and knock down the 3, which was incredible. I know a lot of people were screaming, it wasn't good, it was good, but goes to overtime. Marquette comes up with the victory. Close second place last night, Teddy. The Seton Hall-Butler game, depending on where you were shopping line-wise, a late 3 ball goes in full court. And again, you can't fault the defense here. What's the number one thing, Teddy, they want to do? Don't foul. You're up 4. Here, have the three-pointer. Splash bottom. We've all been there, Teddy. We've had those beats, but we've also had those ones go our way, right?
Sure, and look, they're inevitable, all right? When you bet on sports, there are going to be some results that come right down to the wire, and you're going to be on the right side of them, you're going to be on the wrong side of them. The key is, as a bettor, you have to be able to handle a tough beat. It wasn't brutal. It wasn't a right side winner. You know, it was here's a coin flip at the end, and boom, we're on the wrong side of it. Those can and will happen. The worst bettors that I know are the guys who struggle off a bad loss, and the next day they go nuts, or then they try to double up and triple up. And
double down later, Teddy. Come on, double down later. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to happen. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to freak out, rip your hair out, yell at something, kick the dog, whatever you want to do. Give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes. By the next morning, you better wake up and be spot on, or you're not going to win long-term betting on sports.
Yep, last thing you want to do is say, I'll never bet Creighton again. You should be looking at the next couple nights because there might be value right back on those. Teddy, when we talk about return on investment as gamblers here, you also have to apply that to organizations as well. The Oakland Athletics' Kyler Murray looks like he's going to think about, or looks like he is entering the NFL draft, a top 10 pick in baseball, $4.66 million check written out to him, which he must give back if he goes. But if you are the Oakland A's front office, that's got to sting. You have to know better, right? Or is it just one of those bad lucks and saying, hey, go out there and have your fun, kid, in your senior season or junior season of football. We'll see you in spring training. All hell breaks loose, and now all of a sudden we're talking about maybe a first-round or even top 10 pick for Kyler Murray. Boy, Teddy, that's a bad beat there for the Oakland Athletics, if this is true.
I mean, the A's have had their fair share of bad beats, but you certainly don't look at Oakland as, this is a bad draft choice. How do they know that Kyler Murray's going to come in and be the best quarterback in college football and go from being, all right, some people were talking about, to, all right, he's going to be a first-rounder in the NFL draft and win the Heisman Trophy, et cetera, et cetera. A's didn't know. You didn't know. I didn't know. Lincoln Riley didn't know. Kyler Murray didn't know. They can't blame Oakland for this, but the bottom line is the A's do not get an extra a comp pick if he does choose to enter the NFL draft. And, you know, what's he, 21 years old? Kid can do whatever he wants to do. Football, baseball, it's his choice, not ours. And certainly not the Oakland A's.
No, these bad beats sometimes happen in Philadelphia, Teddy. I know if you go back to the 90s, which, you know, we're a little bit of older guys. We remember J.D. Drew being drafted by the Phillies, #1 overall. Sure, come play with us here. Now I'll just sit it out there, and the Phillies get no compensation back in that. So there is a precedent for teams just saying, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to get this guy underway. Major League Baseball totals, Teddy. I know we saw yesterday Caesars releasing some of the win totals on the season. Always interesting for fodder to try to line up and see who you might get or might be involved with in the Major League Baseball season so you can get over those win totals. Some perceived value in there. We see the really low-level teams like the Baltimore Orioles listed at 59 wins, and they have some teams in the upper 90s. Teddy, it's always important when these come out because there is value to be had. Is it more likely that you see, you don't want to pick off and say, well, I'm going to go with the Yankees, or I'm going to go with one of the teams, the Astros, at 97.5 wins? Doesn't that mean that everything just about has to go right to hit that number? And if you have one or two key injuries, especially to your pitching staff, you might be looking at some value there. Approaching the season, looking at win totals, Teddy, where's the value at, and is it smart to make wagers on these?
There's a lot to talk about here with these win totals. And I'm going to start with this. First to market, Caesars. They're going to have numbers that are available right now that you will not see anywhere else. The first to market is going to post. They're going to take opinions with every number because there's no market. They're creating the market. And these numbers will move. They will settle. But if you're prepared, if you've done your MLB homework, you got to get your butt down to Caesars or get on your app right now and make some bets because these are unique numbers. They're freestanding numbers. There is no broader market consensus yet. There will be. And if you can identify a handful of teams that are even slightly mispriced, you're going to get numbers, again, that nobody else anywhere is going to get. That's the advantage of betting at the book that's first to market. You talked about teams that are at the high end. Your teams that are lined at what? The Yankees at 96.5 and the like. The Cubs 89. The Red Sox. The teams that have the ability to buy at the deadline, they have the roster flexibility, they have the payroll flexibility to be potential buyers. I don't worry about betting those teams over. Yeah, okay, somebody key gets hurt, guess what? They'll get somebody else at the trading deadline. So I'm not shy about betting the higher win totals over where it merits. Of course, the one that stood out to me is the Brewers at 83.5. I mean, when you sign Yasmin Grandal, it means, A, you're playing for this year. They signed him to a one-year deal. B, Milwaukee was pretty darn good last year, and 83.5 looked very, very low for the Brewers after that signing to me. So that's one that absolutely jumped off the page for this bettor.
Well, by the way, Teddy, I also want to ask you a quick question on this because as you bring up Yasmani Grandal being signed there, let's talk about like the big fish in the water, the Manny Machados, the Bryce Harpers. There's still a few hundred free agents that have not yet signed yet because they're waiting for that domino effect for the first two big guys to go off the board and filter down. When looking at some of these win totals, and we always hear like, the White Sox might be in on Machado, the Phillies might be in on Machado, or where Harper is going to go. Having that information or knowledge and taking an intuition shot, is there any value saying, look, I know these guys are waiting for the purse strings to open back up. They're going to add a pitcher or two, going to add a bullpen reliever, maybe a major superstar there. Can you find value in that in the offseason, maybe try to jump a line with one of these win totals?
It's an old Wall Street motto. What's the line? Buy on the rumor, sell on the news? Absolutely. Yep, if you're convinced the White Sox are going to get Machado, you bet the White Sox over now. And if you think that, and then a month from now or 2 months from now, you might have it in the middle. You can bet them back under. Yep. I mean, those situations can and do exist. NFL win total landed in the middle this year, the Buffalo Bills. It does happen. And especially in a situation where a single free agent signing could affect the market significantly. If you got a good rumor and you want to get down on it, you, in theory, will get very much the best of the number, and we'll have all kinds of opportunities with what you want to do later on. You can hold that wager, or you can hedge off it and get an opportunity to cash multiple bets on the same team.
Heading to the association, Teddy, the Greek Freak goes down and crashes the party in Houston, coming in as a road favorite of -2, picking up the win and also the cover in that game. 27 points, 21 rebounds. But the one thing that's just astonishing, Teddy, is we talked about it before on this show as well. James Harden just continues to roll. 42 points and 11 boards last night. Even got a quick whip-around pass from the Greek Freak off of the head. Didn't seem to affect him, Teddy, because he was fine down the stretch, but not enough to overcome. Usage rate for James Harden high. Great win there on the road for the Milwaukee Bucks. Talk a little bit about maybe one or two of these teams, maybe some interesting impacts heading forward, but it's a nice win for the Bucks to go down there and stop a 10-game win streak, home game win streak, for the Houston Rockets here.
Yeah, I had a ticket on the Milwaukee last night. The point spread told you what the right side was. When the Bucks go in there as road favorites in Houston, it's telling you, A, we're taking this game seriously, and B, we're going to show up which is exactly what they did. James Harden, he's putting up monster numbers. 42 points, 11 boards. Yeah. With the game on the line in the fourth quarter, James Harden does what James Harden does, which is jack up bad shots and miss them. And that's why Houston lost last night, because with the game on the line down the stretch, James Harden, I'm not going to say a little bit selfish, but let's just say the offense the ball didn't flow quite the same way that it does for most of the game. For Houston, I'm not a Harden fan. He puts up monster numbers. Greek Freak is the MVP of the NBA right now, and he showed it last night with his team taking care of business in Houston.
That betting show, folks, January 10th of 2019. If you haven't done so, you give us a follow at SBR Sports Picks on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. Every time me and Teddy go live on this show, you get the notification, pop in, and view the show for your viewing experience. SBRodds.com. Find out when those lines are moving. And the reason, Teddy, we like SBRodds.com is because we're going to talk a little bit of divisional round football line moves here. Little stagnant midweek, Teddy, which is usual. You get that jump in the beginning of the week, trying to get ahead of a line, trying to read the tea leaves as the week goes on, sort of settles in, and then you find Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, obviously, with those lines on the move in some spots here. But taking a look at some, it looks like the Philadelphia Eagles, at the time we, punched up the script and the time we got the filming here, looks like that line's moved up a little bit. 51.5 now showing up offshore at BetOnline. 51 at most outlets there. So you're getting a little bit of movement in that game. Teddy, talk about midweek here being, whether it be wise guys, the public, sort of that little malaise midweek where you're waiting to maybe say, is that line going to move? Is it not going to move? Or, once we get some final injury information like T.Y. Hilton seemingly sitting out every week for the past 4 to 5 weeks to get healthy for Sunday, and then you see he's a go for the game. Talk about maybe getting value midweek, or is it best maybe just to wait and just to see how things play out here with these line moves?
Yeah, I mean, you're not normally going to see a ton of NFL line movement between Wednesday and Thursday, even in a playoff week.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, these games are games that they're the line tight. We're not talking about some preseason game or something like that. You're not likely to see a ton of movement off of these numbers right now. I really don't expect it between now and kickoff, whatever movement there was probably earlier in the week. But you bring up an excellent point about. And again, we do this show for Sportsbook Review. The concept is give you guys a ton of info in a relatively short time frame, but we know most of you want to do your own research on a lot of stuff. The SBR odds page is really something you should be using every single day because it's going to give you an idea. Where's the market right now? Where's the market going to move? Look at some of the leading indicator books. Look at some of the books that signify the sharp square divide, and you can really get a sense of what the market is doing, where can I get the best number, and when is going to be the best time to bet on the side that I like, and where is going to be the best place to bet the side that I like. It really is a valuable resource, SBRodds.com.
Segment 3, Teddy, watch what you bet. A couple games here on the docket. We'll talk about the Pac-12 battle, which I don't know how much you can say is good or bad right now with the Pac-12 coming off that disastrous, out-of-conference schedule that they had in December. But we'll get back to it here. It is a major ESPN game. It will be on nationally. UCLA traveling to match up with Oregon. Current lines that we're looking at right now, Teddy, Oregon favored by -4. Looks like a total of 144.5 at the time of the taping there. We didn't have a money line that was available. Game time, 9 o'clock West Coast. So obviously a 6 o'clock tip-off out there. Some key injury information. Bol, which has been out for a couple games. And, I didn't repeat myself. His name is Bol, key center. He'll be a good NBA player once it's turned to turn pro here. Talk about some ins and outs in this game, because the one thing that was interesting, Teddy, is UCLA fired their head coach, Steve Alford. Picked up a couple wins here, maybe getting some momentum. Does it carry over here with the Oregon game?
Well, it could. It really could. But the 2 wins that UCLA got, Stanford, Cal, those are bad basketball teams, both of them. They both came at home. So
it's not Duke versus
this is
Duke
really
Carolina, Teddy, right? Yeah.
Cal is bad, man. I catch another ticket against Cal last night. Stanford's not a whole lot better. But 2 bottom feeders at home is not the same as going to Oregon in Eugene and knocking off the Ducks, especially off an ugly showing from the Ducks in their last ball game, slapped around at home by Oregon State. It's a little bit of circle the wagons time for Oregon in this ball game. The big move has been on the total. Huge steam to the over. This opened 139.5. Your screen's going to say 144.5. I'm seeing 147s right now. This over has been steamed to high heaven. Why? Well, UCLA's put up big point totals in 2 games without Steve Alford. The offense has been pushing tempo. And Oregon, they're playing without Ball. Don't forget Kenny Wooten. That's their 2 low-post defensive studs. What does that mean? It means Altman's going guards. He's going small ball. You can understand why this total has been steamed up big time in early betting action on Thursday.
Heading to the association, Teddy, Oklahoma City is going to travel to San Antonio today to battle the San Antonio Spurs. Looks like Spurs getting 1.5. Still looks like it's hanging around that level. 226.5 as the total, depending on where you're shopping out there tonight. Coming in hot, as we like to say, Oklahoma City, 6 of 7 winners. But if you're looking from the Spurs right now, dropping 3 of 4, usually a pretty good home team here, Teddy, with the Spurs. Are we getting a short line where you say, you know what, I'm going to lean on the home dog, or maybe Oklahoma City is the right move in this game here?
Well, I mean, OKC's coming off a really ugly loss, at home to Minnesota on Tuesday. Westbrook missing a pair of threes in the final seconds that would have given them the victory. And they shot better than 50% from the floor in that ball game and still lost at home to a sub-500 team. Billy Donovan, quote, "We did some really good things offensively. We moved the ball. We generated some good looks. And I think a lot of the shooting percentages, both in the field and the three-point line, were a byproduct of some good ball movement. But they couldn't get stops. And, oh, by the way, Nerlens Noel, not anyone that's going to move the needle from a point spread perspective, his injury matters for OKC. He's been excellent coming off the bench in terms of a low-post defensive stud. And, of course, San Antonio is coming off a really ugly showing, too. They scored just 31 points in the first half at Memphis the other night, lost by double digits. They had a season low in assists in that ballgame, a season worst 30 shots made for the entire ballgame. They're without Rudy Gay. And, oh, by the way, the Spurs have not been good on the second of back-to-backs, just 1-6 straight up this season. We know that Pops rarely goes full steam in these situations. That's definitely a concern for San Antonio bettors, and it's at least part of the reason why we're seeing OKC money, despite the fact the Spurs have been the best point spread team in basketball for the better part of the last 5 weeks.
All right, we're going to get to our 4th and final game of the week in the divisional rounds. Tomorrow, as we know on the channels of Sportsbook Review, it is Football Friday. We'll do a complete rehash of all 4 of these games, but let's not wait any longer. Sunday, 4:40 kickoff. Down in the Dome, Nick Foles takes the traveling circus of the Philadelphia Eagles on the road to see if they can do some damage. And not easy, Teddy, to beat Drew Brees, especially in the playoffs in the Dome. Some interesting shenanigans going on here. The Eagles telling you, hey, don't look too much at that 48-7. We're a different ball club right now. Get a little bit healthier. New starting quarterback in there. And Sean Payton taking the tactic of saying, let's bring the Brinks truck in here. Let me show you $250,000 and a Super Bowl trophy and ask if you want this in order to win the Super Bowl here. I always like these motivational tactics by coaches this time of year. But the one thing we can't overlook is how well Nick Foles and the Eagles have played since he's been there, but also taking a look at a rested and ready Saints team at home. If we take a look at the past couple games, Teddy, that the Philadelphia Eagles have played, look, I mean, your defensive secondary is going to hold up against the Washington Redskins, right? Your defensive secondary is going to hold up against the Chicago Bears. Now you're going to be tested all the way through with a very good offensive line, Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 great running backs, and an elite passing game. Is that enough to propel the New Orleans Saints over? Or is this Nick Foles magic going to keep rolling along here, Teddy?
Well, is it an elite Saints passing game? That's the question that I want to ask right here, because certainly we talk about Drew Brees' ability to dump the ball out to Kamara has been really good. Certainly Michael Thomas has been a number 1 receiver all year long. In terms of the depth of weapons for New Orleans, maybe yes, maybe no. Now that first meeting, that 48-7, and I'll tell you flat out, I was on Philly in that ballgame. I think it was my single worst bet of the entire season. And I was in a situation where, New Orleans is that they've won and covered all these in a row. They're not going to keep. There has to be a letdown at some point. And this Eagles team playing for their season, yada, yada. The Eagles played for their season a lot this year. Didn't necessarily do too well in those ball games. But the situation for the Eagles in that ball game, they were coming off a divisional game. They were in a divisional sandwich with another one next. They had cluster injuries in the secondary. Those are not situations that Philly is in right now by any stretch of the imagination. We're talking about Nick Foles, who is the number 1 all-time QB rating in the playoffs. Prior to this game, we'll see how it finishes up, but going into the game, he's number 1. Of course, Drew Brees is number 5 in that same category, a QB rating of over 100 all-time in the postseason, and Brees with a lot more postseason experience than Foles. We saw the Saints get a home game last year. They won. They did not cover against Carolina in their first-round matchup. This time off a bye, you do worry about the Saints offense being out of rhythm and out of sync. We saw that earlier in the season. They came off their bye. Remember that awful game offensively they played at Baltimore? They got the win and cover. They were not the right side in that game, certainly not at the end. So you do worry about the Saints offense being out of sync, but you also have to worry about the Philadelphia Eagles running out of gas. This is a team that's been on a nice run for a couple of weeks. Doing it in New Orleans on Sunday night is going to be a tall task for Philly. They're going to have to get much better pass rush this time around and get the ball out of Drew Brees' hands a bit quicker than it was in that first meeting. If they're going to hang around.
Always that dilemma. Yeah. Always that dilemma that you have, Teddy, especially when you're betting the road team there. You have to remember that they were at Washington to end the season, at the Chicago Bears. Now they're going to go at the Dome against a team that's been rested, ready, and waiting for them. Because if we remember also, Teddy, before that, the Saints had a couple home games before they even took their bye week heading into the playoffs. So it should be fun. Off the mic segment here, Teddy. And this is, this looks like it's going to be a continued feature here, talking NFL coaches and just the head-scratching moves that we make. Adam Gase, not good enough for the Miami Dolphins, Teddy, but apparently good enough for the New York Jets. Switching interdivision, Gase 23-25 with the Miami Dolphins. That's good enough probably for a raise and another 5 years at your division rival, New York Jets. Sometimes I just think Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and that whole family up in New England just says, you know what? This is a great division to be in. We're happy to be here, and we'll take that division title again next year, Teddy. Just talk a little bit about here. Look, we don't know how it's going to work out. Maybe Adam Gase turns it around, and Sam Darnold's the quarterback of his dreams, and it works wonders. I always just find it interesting how you can move on from a head football coach in Todd Bowles and then welcome in one of the guys in the division that doesn't even have a winning record here. Interesting move, Teddy, by the New York Jets.
I'm 100% in favor of this move. Adam Gase was the best coach available, and the Jets got him not even close in that regard. Mike McCarthy versus Adam Gase? Are you kidding me? Mike McCarthy is an aging ass clown who took a great team in Green Bay and slowly, methodically eliminated their will to live. You don't want Mike McCarthy coaching your team, and especially not if you want to be any good. All right, Adam Gase. Miserable situation in Miami. The QB got hurt twice in 3 years. You have bad ownership. You have bad facilities. It's hard to get it's great to be in Miami. You can't get free agents in Miami because it's so crappy, the stadium and the practice stuff. It's not a good organization. Not that the Jets is a great organization, but I don't blame Adam Gase for Miami's failures. He's a bright offensive mind. Everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay. Gase is that guy. I thought Miami, they were a 3-win team this year that cashed an over 6.5 win bet. I'm an Adam Gase fan. I think the Jets made a good hire.
I always get a laugh, too. Mike McCarthy said he's going to sit this one out, Teddy, because he only wanted the Jets job. And I always used to get a laugh when you watch the Packer games, when they go to the throwbacks with the Acme Packers uniform. It really made me laugh. So, Mike McCarthy looks like he's taking that offense back to the 1940s and 50s. Way to waste the town of Aaron Rodgers, a generational prospect. Should have been a lot more down there for Green Bay. But we'll see how interesting it takes off there. Adam Gase takes the head coaching job. Folks, 20 minutes already up. That betting show here for January 10th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your betting needs. Teddy and I will be back tomorrow again. Divisional round playoffs take center stage. We'll rehash all 4 games, give you the updated games, and what to bet tomorrow on Friday. It's been a fun show here at sportsbookreview.com. He's Teddy. I'm Donnie. Have a good night, and we'll catch you tomorrow.